Okay, so I finished watching the Book of Boba Fett, Season 1. The last episode just came out. And man, this show is erratic. In a previous video, I talked about how I was a little skeptical after seeing the first 2 episodes. Well, now that the season's over, I can say that it didn't get any better. And I'm going to be talking about some spoilers, so just be warned. I just don't get what they were trying to accomplish with this show. I mean, it's a mess. It's called the Book of Boba Fett, which is a pretentious fucking title, but whatever. And it makes you think that it's going to be all about Boba Fett, right? He's going to get some real character development. He's going to have an arc of some kind. This is their chance to showcase him and show that he really is a badass, despite how he went down in Return of the Jedi, which was just played for laughs. But no, there's none of that shit. What we know about Boba Fett is that he's a pretty ruthless bounty hunter, right? At the very least, a morally questionable character. He's worked for the Empire. He's worked for Jabba the Hutt. He laughed like a little psychopath when his dad was trying to kill Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's not a nice man. But suddenly, without explanation, he is a nice man. And I'd be totally fine with that if they actually showed a gradual change or a reason for him to change. But as far as I could tell, there's nothing. He just randomly becomes a good guy. A good guy who spends half the show in his fucking underwear. It opens up with him escaping from the Sarlacc pit, which is great. We've all been waiting to see that. And that's exactly what I would expect. But then some Jawas come by and steal his armor. And then some Tusken Raiders come up on him. And, I guess because Jawas and Tusken Raiders are the only fucking people who traverse this shitty planet. And they take him in and they're pretty brutal. It seems like they're going to kill him. They beat the fuck out of him. And he eventually proves he's worth keeping alive. And he kind of becomes part of the tribe. So this is where he decided to become an altruistic dude, I guess? Is this it? I'm really asking because I don't know. Maybe it's something I just missed. Keep in mind, 2 weeks prior to this, he was trying to kill Luke Skywalker in the name of Jabba the Hutt. He's not a good dude. But now, he's a good dude. He helps the Tusken Raiders. He becomes loyal to them. They end up getting slaughtered. And he goes on his way with a new sense of honor and purpose, I guess. Even though I have no idea what that purpose is. I mean, what does this dude want? What are his goals? And of course, he eventually comes across Fennec Shand, which leads into the events of The Mandalorian. You absolutely have to have seen The Mandalorian to get anything out of this show. There's no question about it. But, he gets his armor back. And here we are, back on Tatooine. And he's taken over Jabba the Hutt's crime family. And there's some people who don't like that. So they want him gone. But and I don't understand the thought process here, because he became a crime boss in order to be virtuous, it seems. He commits no crime in this show. He's an altruistic fuckhead. And I can't figure out why. What happened to him to make him like this? I really want to know. Is it the trauma of being inside the Sarlacc pit? Was it the kinship he found with the Tusken Raiders? Because I got to tell you, it's not going to take me long to poke holes in that, if that's what it is. It's great that we got to see the Tusken Raiders in a more positive light. They're not just mindless bad guys in this show. But they're still pretty brutal. I mean, when they kidnapped and tortured Anakin's mom for no fucking reason, and then it seems like they were going to do the same exact thing to Boba Fett before he earned their respect. So I don't know how he learned to be virtuous from living that lifestyle. It's not that different from the life he lived as a bounty hunter. I mean, Raider is in their name. They're simple people trying to make their way in the universe. as Boba Fett's dad used to say. I just don't get it. But if you have a reason for his sudden personality change, or if I'm missing something, please tell me. I really want to know. And it was at this point that the show really started to lose me. Tusken Raider tribe gets slaughtered, and some time passes. He meets up with Fennec Shand, as I mentioned, and he goes to get his ship back. And then he kills all the dudes who he thinks is responsible for killing the tribe. And then he goes back to the Sarlacc pit to get his armor, because he thinks his armor is still in there, despite the fact that he knows he escaped with it on. He knows he had that armor on. It's the only way he could have survived, was because of that armor. So why the fuck did he think his armor is in the Sarlacc pit? I've been waiting for an answer to this, and I haven't seen anything that is convincing to me. And then he gets attacked by the Sarlacc, and he blows it to smithereens. Okay, I know why this scene happened. They wanted to have a scene where Boba Fett kills the Sarlacc once and for all. Fine. But why not just have him want to kill the thing for what he went through? Why'd they have to make up a reason for him to be there looking for his armor, which he knows isn't there? Why couldn't he just say, hey, I want to kill this thing for what it put me through? That's my problem with this show. They don't let Boba Fett shoot first. He's so altruistic and virtuous that they don't even let him kill a Lovecraftian monster unless he has a good reason to do it. They made the Sarlacc shoot first. It's exasperating. And then the show kind of becomes the third season of The Mandalorian, which, even if you like this show, I think you have to admit is pretty jarring. For 2 episodes, the show just follows The Mandalorian. And he's trying to get a new ship, since the Razor Crest was destroyed in the last season, and he wants to go visit Grogu, who has been training to be a Jedi with Luke. And he settles for a very impractical ship, and he goes to see them. And I know a lot of people love this episode, and even I admit it's always great to see Grogu. I mean, I'm not a complete psychopath. I love that character. I think everybody does. But I was still pulling my hair out because Luke has apparently embraced the old Jedi ways of no attachments, despite the fact that he wouldn't have been born without Anakin's attachment to Padme, and he wouldn't have been able to defeat the Empire without his own attachment to Darth Vader. So this Luke is a fucking moron. He offers Grogu a choice. He can decide to be a Mandalorian, or he can continue his Jedi training, but he can't do both. He won't allow it. This is in spite of the fact that there once was a Mandalorian who was a Jedi. That's where the Darksaber comes from. So this idea that you have to turn your back on everything you know just to become a Jedi is asinine. And Luke didn't even do that. He rejected the Jedi dogma, and he found his own way in the original trilogy, a way that no one else had thought of. And yet here he is, an emotionless Jedi drone, carrying out the same backwards practices that destroyed them in the first place. That's why the discourse around Luke is so fascinating to me, because a lot of people see this as a retconning of Luke in The Last Jedi. Last Jedi fans seem to dislike this show, and the people who hate The Last Jedi seem to love it because they see it as different. But I think they're all wrong. I think this is the same Luke from The Last Jedi. He's the same guy who screams about the sacred Jedi texts. He has bought into the dogma hook, line, and sinker, which, to me, has always been preposterous because that goes against everything we saw in the original trilogy. I'm sorry, it does. And if it feels like I'm getting off track and away from the Book of Boba Fett, it's because that's exactly what the show does. It becomes another show. It has absolutely nothing to do with Boba Fett at this point. and the events on Tatooine. They're irrelevant at this point. It's just a setup for the next season of The Mandalorian. And which I wouldn't even mind if Boba Fett had gotten some character development up until this point. But he hasn't. It's exhausting. And of course, Grogu chooses the Mandalorian way. I mean, who could blame him after that point? After that ultimatum that Luke gave him. I mean, I thought only a Sith deals in absolutes, which of course is also a stupid line of dialogue. One of many in this fucking saga. And Luke laughably sends him on his way in his X-Wing alone, like a Amazon delivery drone, to meet with Mando, who is on Tatooine, and he's agreed to help Boba Fett in his power struggle. That's basically where the show comes to a close. A war starts in the streets of Tatooine, and Boba Fett's team wins, which is amazing because the bad guys brought these, like, Mary Sue battle droids with impenetrable shields and massive laser cannons. I mean, I don't know why they didn't lead with these things. They sent out just regular dudes first. And I don't know where the fuck these things were during the original trilogy, or during the prequels for that matter. I mean, it seems like they would have come in handy for someone. The only thing that could stop them is a Rancor, which Boba Fett rides into battle like a fucking kaiju. I mean, Luke Skywalker crushed a Rancor to death with a fucking door. But somehow, this Rancor is able to shake off shots from a massive laser cannon and wrestle with a giant robot with a super shield. It's so mindless. It's brain dead. The finale, despite all that, is still the best episode of the season. So what does that tell you? But it can't save it because it's still a mess. I had low expectations for this show, but it didn't even manage to meet them. It was really disappointing. And for the Dick Rock rating, I give it 2 Dick Rocks out of 5. And it's funny because I've also been watching Peacemaker on HBO, which obviously is a very different show, but it gets everything right that the Boba Fett show gets wrong in terms of character development. The Book of Boba Fett is like the anti-Peacemaker in a lot of ways. And I think season 1 of that show ends next week, and I can't wait to talk about that shit, because I fucking love that show. It's really been awesome. Just the polar opposite of this shit. And you know, this show at one time was supposed to be a movie. They were going to do a Boba Fett movie. But I think the Han Solo movie did so badly that they put every movie on hold. But I think they still use the same ideas for the show, because it feels very much like a 2-hour movie that they just stretched beyond belief to the fucking limits in order to make a TV show out of it. It really feels like nothing but padding. And it's just kind of lazy in my opinion. And I know some of what I said might piss off some Star Wars fans. And that's not my intention. But if you are one of the Star Wars fans that gets mad at what I said here, just know I don't really give a shit. But if you're nice and you want to talk to me about anything I said here and have a civilized conversation, please, I would like nothing more. You know, even if you disagree with me, tell me. Tell me why I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. But if you're going to be condescending and question my intelligence just because I didn't like your little Star Wars show, get the fuck out of here. I'm done trying to be nice to this fan base. And I've tried. But Star Wars fans are without question the most toxic fans. And I know that word is overused, but I think it's the only word that applies. And I'm not even saying I'm above it. I know I can be an asshole too. I mean, this whole video is probably proof of that. But it's just frustrating to me when every little criticism of a TV show or a movie is met with nothing but mockery. So, if that's how you want to play it, go take a walk. I have no interest in talking to you. I didn't mean for this to devolve into a rant about the Star Wars fan base, but here we are. Anyway, that's basically all I got for now. Sorry for babbling so much. And just remember, if you're going to do a show about a character, maybe it should actually be about that character. And maybe we don't need to see him run around in his underoos for half the show. Just a thought.